Today I'm in the kitchen making muffin tray raspberry tarts. I'm using my foolproof pie dough recipe to make the perfect golden flaky tartlet shell in this dessert muffin tin recipe. These mini pies hold the perfect amount of homemade juicy raspberry filling and make the perfect handheld dessert for a picnic or finger food. I'm Rebecca and welcome to the kitchen. This is how I make muffin tray raspberry tarts. The first thing I need to do is make the dough for my tartlets. I'm going to make the pie dough in the food processor because it's quick and easy. Add 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 1/2 tablespoons of sugar. Pulse to mix the dry ingredients together. I've cut 1 cup of cold butter into cubes, and with the food processor on low, I'm going to add the butter through the funnel. When all the butter is in, turn the machine off. If you're making this recipe without a food processor, use a pastry blender or rub the butter and flour through your fingertips until you have a coarse crumb consistency. Now I'm going to mix my wet ingredients together. I'm using a small glass measuring cup, but any pourable container is fine. Mix 6 tablespoons of cold water, 1/2 tablespoon of vinegar, and 1 egg. With the food processor on low again, pour the liquid through the funnel until the dough holds together. This should only take a few seconds. If the dough still appears dry, add a little more water until the dough clumps together. As soon as this happens, turn off the machine so you don't overwork the dough. This will help the crust to be delicate and flaky after it's baked. I'm going to let the dough rest 10 minutes so it'll be easier to roll out. Roll the dough out on a lightly floured counter. I'm making sure to turn and flip my dough a few times to make sure nothing sticks to the counter or rolling pin. If you find that it's starting to stick, sprinkle on a little more flour. I'm going to cut out circles a little bigger than my muffin cups. You can use a large cookie cutter, biscuit cutter, or an upside down cup. I'm using a canning jar ring. Cut out circles of dough and then collect all the scraps back together. Roll and cut circles out until you have the amount you need to make the tarts. You can save some of the dough to make a lattice top for your tarts, or you can use a small cookie cutter to add some shapes as a top crust. I'm going to shape my dough circles to the inside of each muffin cup, pressing down and up the sides of each one. Place the muffin tray in the freezer and chill for 15 minutes. Meanwhile, preheat the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit or 160 degrees Celsius. When the dough is solid, pierce some holes in the bottom of the tartlets with a fork. This will allow the steam to escape while the pastry is baking and will stop bubbles from puffing up in the bottom of the shells. I'm going to help the dough hold its shape in the oven by placing a muffin liner inside of all the unbaked tartlets. Place a handful of dried beans, dried rice, or pie weights in each. Now my tarts are ready to go in the oven. Bake for 15 minutes, then remove the liners and weights and continue cooking until the bottom is baked and starting to color, which takes about 10 to 12 minutes. Now that my mini tart shells are baked, I'm going to get started on the easy raspberry filling. To a medium saucepot over medium-high heat, add 2 400-gram bags of frozen raspberries, 1 1/2 cups of brown sugar, and 1/4 cup of cornstarch. Mix this to coat the berries. Stir occasionally until the berries come to a simmer, then stir the mixture until you have a thick sauce. Turn off the heat and stir in 1 tablespoon of butter. Now we can add the raspberry pie filling to our mini pie shells. Spoon the fruit all the way to the top of each shell. If you want to add a lattice top or other pie dough embellishments to the top, do that now. Any tarts with dough on top, bake again for another 8 to 10 minutes, or until the top crust is baked and lightly colored. The filling will start to set as you allow the tarts to cool. Remove the mini raspberry tarts from the muffin tin and serve. Enjoy!